Excellencies, distinguished guests, Head of States and Government, honorable ministers, ladies and gentlemen. I am honored to address you today at the Berlin Climate Mobility Forum, and I thank the Global Center for Climate Mobility and the Robert Bosch Foundation for convening this important gathering. We meet at a time when the impacts of climate change are no longer distant projections. They are being felt in the daily lives of people and communities across the world. For small island developing states such as Seychelles, this reality is especially clear. Climate change is not only an environmental challenge, it is a human, social, and development challenge. It affects homes, livelihoods, culture, identity, and people's ability to remain safely in the places they call home. Seychelles is an island nation with a deep connection to land and sea. Our communities are shaped by our ocean, our coastlines, our natural environment, and our shared sense of place. For our people, home is not simply where one lives. It is where families are rooted, where communities are built, and where culture and identity are passed from one generation to the next. This is why the issue of climate mobility must be approached with great care. It must begin with the recognition that most people do not wish to leave their homes. They want to remain where they belong with dignity, security, and opportunity. The right to stay must therefore remain central to our collective response. Protecting the right means investing in adaptation before displacement becomes unavoidable. It means strengthening resilience in communities already exposed to sea level rise, coastal erosion, flooding, extreme weather, water stress, and other climate-related risks. It also means ensuring that climate action is not designed in isolation from the social realities of the people it is meant to serve. In Seychelles, we are already seeing how climate impacts affect different aspects of national development. Coastal erosion threatens infrastructure and settlements. Changing weather patterns affect water security and livelihoods. Pressure on ecosystems has consequences for fisheries, tourism, and food security. These pressures are environmental, but their consequences are deeply social. They place added strain on households, particularly those with fewer resources to adapt, and they can increase existing vulnerabilities for women, children, older persons, persons with disabilities, and communities living in exposed areas. For this reason, climate mobility cannot be treated only as a matter of migration policy. It must be addressed as part of a wider development agenda, one that brings together climate adaptation, social protection, disaster risk reduction, housing, health, education, employment, and community development. This is particularly important for small island developing states. Our vulnerabilities are well known, but so too is our determination to lead. Seychelles has long advocated for stronger climate action, greater ambition, and more effective support for vulnerable countries. We have also continued to invest in resilience, environmental protection, disaster preparedness, and sustainable development. However, the scale of the challenge is growing. No country can address climate mobility alone. The movement, displacement, or immobility of people in the context of climate change requires cooperation, planning, finance, and solidarity. Seychelles, like the other small island developing states represented here, face growing risks, and our people confront questions about their futures every day. When we speak of climate finance, of loss and damage, and of genuine international cooperation, we are raising a question of fairness, and we raise it in the expectation that the international community has both the capacity and the will to respond. In Seychelles, approximately 85% of our population lives close to the coast, and current research suggests that nearly 1 in 10 of our citizens lives in a settlement directly at risk of coastal flooding. Without sustained action, the economic consequences alone could reduce our GDP by more than 6%, eroding the very foundations of tourism, fisheries, and community well-being. These figures are the baseline from which responsible planning must begin. The global principles for addressing climate mobility provide an important basis for this work. They recognize that climate mobility must be addressed through a rights-based, a people-centered approach. They affirm the importance of protecting the right to stay, planning for safe and dignified mobility when movement becomes necessary, and ensuring that communities remain at the center of decisions that affect their future. Seychelles welcomes this approach. For us, limited mobility, climate mobility must never be reduced to movement alone. It must be about choice, the choice to remain safely where possible, the choice to move with dignity when necessary, the choice to preserve family unity, culture, and identity, and the choice for future generations to inherit communities that are resilient, inclusive, and secure. To achieve this, 3 priorities are essential. First, we must scale up locally led adaptation. Communities understand their realities, know where the risks are greatest, what livelihoods are at stake, and what solutions are most practical. Climate finance and technical support must therefore reach the local level, where resilience is built in real and measurable ways. Second, climate mobility must be integrated into national planning. It should be reflected in adaptation plans, disaster risk management frameworks, social protection systems, housing policies, and long-term development strategies. Planning ahead allows countries to reduce risk, protect rights, and avoid crisis-driven responses. Third, international support must become more predictable, accessible, and responsive to the needs of vulnerable countries. Small island developing states have contributed least to the climate crisis, yet we are among those facing its most serious consequences. Climate finance, loss and damage support, and capacity building must match this reality. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, climate mobility is one of the clearest reminders that climate change is ultimately about people. It is about whether communities can remain safe, whether livelihoods can be protected, whether cultures can be preserved, and whether development can continue in the face of growing climate risks. The task before us is therefore not only to manage movement, it is to protect dignity, strengthen resilience, and expand the choices available to people and communities. Seychelles stands ready to work with all partners to advance this agenda. As a small island developing state, we bring our experience, our vulnerability, and our commitment to practical solutions. In turn, we strongly believe that this forum has both the knowledge and the collective standing to turn concerns into commitments. Let us leave Berlin not with a shared statement of intention alone, but with the finance, the cooperation, and the political will to make climate mobility a matter of genuine choice, not forced necessity. For the people of Seychelles and for the millions of others living on the front lines of this crisis, that distinction is everything. It is what urgency, fairness, and humanity requires. Thank you.